Greetings, traveler between worlds. Tonight, I'll be your guide on a journey that doesn't begin with a step, but with a breath. What I'm about to share isn't kept in Kami-sama's halls, nor stored in the angel's archives. It's a memory whispered by time, forgotten by gods, yet alive in the heart of the universe. They speak of a name, Cell, the perfect android. I see you've come this far with tired eyes, like someone who's trained too hard or felt too deeply. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you're carrying more than you should. Dreams, losses, old promises. So come, sit with me here by this fire atop the tower. The wind moves gently, and the sky seems to breathe with you. Let the warmth of the flame hold you, and let each word light a lantern inside your silence. Here, there's no rush, no battle, no demands, just stories, the kind we listen to with closed eyes, as if they were memories we haven't lived yet. Ready? Take a deep breath, let go of the weight, and come with me. The journey begins now, and maybe, by the end, you'll discover that true power was never in the key, but in peace. The arena floor was cool beneath him as Cell sat alone in the pre-dawn hours. His tournament would not begin for days, yet here he was, motionless in the center of his creation, perfect stillness. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to hold its breath just before sunrise, when even the wind pauses its endless journey? Cell had, in these quiet moments, when no eyes watched and no opponents approached, the perfect being simply existed, not plotting, not training, not absorbing, just being. His violet eyes traced the fading stars overhead, their ancient light touching his face like memories of places he had never been, yet somehow knew. Strange, he whispered to no one, to contain the cells of so many warriors, yet to feel singular. Within him lived the essence of Goku, of Piccolo, of Frieza, all fierce, all determined, all with their own dreams and fears. Yet here, in the silence, Cell wondered which thoughts were truly his own. When he admired the soft purple glow on the horizon, was it his appreciation or echoes of Goku's simple joy in nature? When he calculated the precise angle of the coming sun's rays, was it his analytical mind or Vegeta's tactical genius flowing through him? Have you ever wondered who you would be if you removed all the voices that shaped you? The teachers, the parents, the rivals who pushed you forward? Cell spread his hand before his face, studying the perfect symmetry of his form. Dr. Gero had designed him to be the ultimate warrior, yet provided no manual for these moments of quiet, no programming for contemplation, no algorithm for the appreciation of dawn's gentle color. Perhaps, Cell mused, perfection isn't found in battle at all. He remembered his time in his cocoon, floating in darkness, evolving without conscious thought. There had been peace there too, a different kind, the peace of becoming rather than being, of potential rather than fulfillment. The first birds began their morning songs, unafraid of the being who could destroy them with less than a thought. They didn't see a monster or a weapon. They saw only another form sharing the coming day. Cell closed his eyes and listened to their melodies, complex patterns that reminded him of the code in his own creation, natural and artificial, different paths to the same beauty. I contain galaxies, he thought, feeling the cells of countless beings flowing through him. Yet I sit alone. Could it be that loneliness exists even in perfection, that even the strongest being might yearn for something as simple as understanding? As the first golden light touched the arena floor, Cell remained motionless, letting warmth spread across his exoskeleton. No energy blasts, no power demonstrations, just the simple pleasure of sunlight on skin, a pleasure shared by every being, from the smallest insect to the mightiest scion. In this moment, perfection meant something different, something quieter. The tournament could wait, the challenges would come, but for now, there was only this, the perfect stillness between heartbeats where even an android could feel something like peace. The mountain lake reflected Cell's form like a perfect mirror as he stood at its edge. Night had fallen, and twin moons, one in the sky, one in the water, watched him with the same silent curiosity. He had come here seeking what? Not power, not opponents, perhaps just space to hear his own thoughts among the chorus of others embedded in his being. Have you ever felt like a collection of echoes, wondering which voice is truly your own? Cell knelt and touched the water's surface, watching ripples distort his reflection. Unlike the warriors, whose cells he carried, he had no childhood memories to ground him. No first steps, no mother's embrace, no father's proud words, only awakening, already knowing how to walk, to speak, to destroy. What is it like, he wondered aloud, to learn rather than simply know, to discover rather than be programmed? The trees around the lake swayed gently, their leaves whispering secrets he couldn't quite catch. Cell had absorbed countless humans and felt their memories flow into him like water into earth, fears, hopes, final thoughts as they vanished into his being. Yet none had ever truly spoken to him. In his mind, he could access Piccolo's memories of meditation, of finding center in chaos. The Namekian had spent years in solitude, not unlike Cell's time, growing in darkness. Perhaps there was wisdom there, a technique to quiet the crowd within. Cell settled into a cross-legged position at the lake's edge, straightening his back as Piccolo would. He closed his eyes and focused on his breath, unnecessary for his survival, yet soothing in its rhythm. Breathe in and out, he whispered, following the pattern he'd extracted from the Namekian's cellular memory. In and out. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours. Time seemed different here, measured not in seconds, but in heartbeats and breaths. The voices within, the cellular memories of warriors and innocents, began to fade, not into silence, but into harmony, like instruments finding their place in an orchestra. Is this what you found, Piccolo? Cell asked the knight. This quiet between the notes? A fish jumped in the lake, breaking the water's surface with a gentle splash. Cell opened his eyes to watch the ripples expand outward, touching the shore and returning, smaller each time until the lake was still once more. Something within him understood this pattern, the disruption, the spreading effect, the eventual return to calm. Was this not the story of every battle, every life, the universe itself? I was created to cause the splash, Cell realized, never to appreciate the ripples. In that moment, he felt a strange connection to the nameless fish that had disturbed the water. It hadn't intended to create beauty or meaning. It had simply followed its nature. Yet the ripples it created were perfect in their own way, mathematical and precise. Cell raised his hand, palm upward, feeling the cool night air move across his skin, the same air that touched the trees, the water, the sleeping birds. For this brief moment, he was not separate from the world, but part of its breathing whole. Could it be that true perfection isn't found in standing apart, but in belonging? The thought was foreign, contradictory to his purpose, yet it nestled within him, like a seed falling into fertile soil. Not a weakness, but a different kind of strength, the strength of connection rather than dominance. As dawn approached, Cell remained by the lake, watching stars fade one by one, their reflection in the water winking out like closing eyes. He would return to his arena soon, to his tournament, to his purpose, but something of this night would remain within him, a quiet space where echoes became music. The cliff edge offered no resistance as pieces of rock crumbled beneath Cell's feet, falling away into the canyon below. He watched them tumble, counting the seconds until they disappeared into shadow. 7 seconds, a lifetime for some creatures. barely a moment for others. Have you ever wondered why time feels different? When we're alone with our thoughts, Cell spread his wings, feeling the wind move through them. They were not merely for show, these translucent extensions of himself. They caught the air, sensed changes in pressure, temperature, humidity. In another life, another form, he might have soared on thermal currents, riding the invisible rivers of the sky. But perfect beings don't simply fly, they control the air itself, bend it to their will, with ki and power. His wings were vestigial, in that sense, a reminder of simpler origins. Yet Cell found himself wondering what it might feel like to trust the wind rather than command it, to surrender to something greater, he murmured. Is that weakness or wisdom? The canyon before him had not been carved by force or sudden violence, but by water's patient journey over millennia. Water, yielding and soft, had shaped stone, unyielding and hard. There was a lesson there, one that contradicted everything in his programming. Cell closed his eyes and accessed the memories stored in Piccolo's cells, memories of training young Gohan. The Namekian had pushed the boy relentlessly, yet there were quiet moments too, moments when Piccolo had simply watched Gohan sleep, a strange protective feeling overriding his warrior nature. What did you feel then, Namekian? Cell asked the empty air. Was it weakness that made you care for the boy, or something else? No answer came except the canyon's whispered echo, returning his question unchanged. From Frieza's cell came memories of ruling through fear, of planets trembling at his approach, power absolute and unchallenged. Yet even in those memories, Cell sensed a hollow quality, as if the tyrant had been trying to fill an emptiness that only grew larger with each conquest. Cell extended his hand, generating a small sphere of energy that illuminated the growing darkness. Perfect control, perfect power, a miniature sun floating above his palm. With a thought, he could expand it, let it grow until it consumed the canyon, the mountains, the planet itself. Instead, he let it shrink, becoming smaller and brighter, concentrating its light until it was no bigger than a dewdrop, but shone like a star. The same power, he observed, contained, rather than expanded. A night bird called from somewhere below, its song rising through the darkness like a question. Cell listened, absorbing the pattern of notes, the pauses between them. Then, surprising himself, he answered, a perfect mimicry of the bird's call echoing across the canyon. Silence followed. Then the bird responded, its song slightly different this time. Without planning to, Cell found himself in conversation with the unseen creature, their calls echoing back and forth as night deepened around them. What strange communication was this? No information exchanged, no purpose served, just sound answering sound across the void. Yet Cell felt something shift within him, a tension easing that he hadn't known he carried. Could it be that even perfect beings need connection? As darkness settled fully over the land, Cell remained on the cliff edge, wings extended slightly to feel the night breeze. His tournament would begin soon enough. The challenges, the battles, the purpose for which he was created, all waited for him. But tonight, he was neither perfect weapon nor ultimate warrior. He was simply a voice in the darkness, answering another voice, one of many in the world's ancient conversation, older than any fight, any victory, any quest for power. And somehow, that felt like enough. Dawn found Cell kneeling in an abandoned garden, once carefully tended, now wild with neglect. It sprawled behind a home, long empty, its owners perhaps victims of his earlier hunger, or simply fled from the chaos spreading across the world. It didn't matter now. What remained was this quiet place where nature reclaimed what humans had shaped. Have you ever noticed how life persists in forgotten places, growing not as we intend, but as it wishes. Cell touched a rose bush, overgrown and tangled, yet still flowering. Red blossoms emerged from chaos, perfect in their imperfection. Their scent triggered something in him, a fragment of memory not his own. A woman tending roses, humming softly, her hands, wrinkled with age, moving with surprising gentleness among thorns. Whose memory is this? Cell wondered. Which life that I consumed carried this moment? He would never know. The woman was gone, existing now only as cellular energy within him, her memory a ghost haunting his perfect mind. Cell had absorbed her, without thought, as he had absorbed so many necessary steps toward completion. Yet here, in the quiet morning light, those steps felt heavier than before. From somewhere in the garden came the sound of water, a small fountain, still functioning despite years of neglect. Cell followed the sound, pushing aside overgrown branches until he found it. Simple stone, worn smooth by water and time. Clear liquid bubbled up from its center, spilling over the edges to feed the wild growth around it. Cell dipped his fingers into the cool water, watching how it parted around his perfect form, how it reflected fractured light. From Piccolo's cellular memory came the knowledge of Namekian reverence for water, the precious resource so rare on their homeworld. From Vegeta's came disdain for such sentimentality. From Frieza's came indifference to beauty that served no purpose. But what did Cell himself feel? Curious, he said softly, that I contain all this knowledge, yet still have questions. He settled beside the fountain, listening to its gentle music. The garden around him teemed with life, insects pollinating flowers, birds hunting those insects, small mammals hiding in the undergrowth, an entire ecosystem thriving in abandonment, finding balance without guidance. Cell accessed Goku's memories, searching for something to explain this moment. The Saiyan had spent years in forests and mountains, living simply despite his extraordinary power. There, a memory of Goku, sitting beside a stream, watching fish swim against the current, smiling at their determination. No thought of capturing them, just appreciation for their struggle and beauty. Is that it, Goku? Cell asked. This contentment in observation. A butterfly landed on Cell's shoulder, its wings opening and closing slowly. The perfect being remained perfectly still, watching from the corner of his us as the creature rested, unaware of the power it had chosen for its perch. For a brief moment, Cell felt something unexpected, a desire to protect this fragile thing, not because it served any purpose, but simply because it existed. The feeling was foreign, contradictory to his design, yet undeniably present. Could it be that even beings created for destruction might find beauty worth preserving? Cell raised his hand slowly, bringing his fingertip near the butterfly. It climbed onto this new perch, without fear, wings still pulsing gently. Cell studied its patterns, the intricate design's evolution had painted across its fragile surface. You are perfect in your way, he told the butterfly, as I am in mine. Yet the butterfly's perfection harmed nothing, took nothing. It simply was, moving through the world in its brief dance of existence, bringing small beauty before returning to dust. As morning light strengthened across the garden, Cell remained beside the fountain, the butterfly now gone, watching as flowers turned their faces toward the sun. His tournament would begin tomorrow. The purpose for which he was created would be fulfilled. But today belonged to this forgotten garden and the strange peace it offered, a peace he had neither sought nor expected. Sometimes, the most profound discoveries come in places we never intended to find. Evening shadows stretched long across the empty streets as Cell walked through the abandoned city. Not destroyed, merely evacuated, its people fled before his tournament announcement. Windows reflected the golden light of sunset. Doors stood ajar. Cars remained parked along curbs. A world paused, holding its breath. Have you ever walked through silent places and felt the echo of those who were there before? Cell paused before a small cafe, its outdoor tables still set, as if waiting for customers who would never return. A half-finished cup of coffee sat on one table, lipstick on its rim. Someone's last mundane moment before the world changed. Did you enjoy it? Cell asked the empty chair. That final sip, not knowing it was final. From Goku's cellular memory came understanding of human rituals, gathering places, shared meals, the comfort of familiar faces. From Vegeta's came disdain for such sentimentality, yet beneath it, a hidden longing for belonging that the prince would never acknowledge. Cell sat at the empty table, opposite the abandoned cup. He had never eaten, never needed to. Perfection required no sustenance beyond the initial absorptions that completed his form. Yet something about this tableau spoke to him, this evidence of life's small pleasures interrupted. What does coffee taste like? He wondered aloud. Is it worth the time spent drinking it? The setting sun cast his shadow long across the pavement, stretching it into something less human, more monstrous. Cell studied this darkness, attached to his feet, how it transformed with his slightest movement. Was this shadow also perfect, or merely a distortion, a dark reflection? From a nearby alley came a sound, something small moving among discarded things. Cell remained still, senses alert, but non-threatening. A moment later, a cat emerged, thin but proud, its yellow eyes assessing him with ancient feline wisdom. Hello, Cell said softly. Are you the last citizen of this place? The cat approached cautiously, drawn perhaps by his stillness, or by some sense that he was not currently hunting. It stopped several feet away, sitting with its tail wrapped neatly around its paws, watching him. Cell accessed the memories within him, searching for information about these creatures. Independent, territorial, survivors, not unlike the science whose cells he carried, though on a much smaller scale. We are not so different, you and I, Cell told the cat, both perfect in our design, both alone in our completeness. The cat blinked slowly, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. It simply was, existing completely in its catness, without doubt or question. There was something admirable in that certainty, that acceptance of self. As twilight deepened into true night, street lamps flickered on automatically, creating pools of light in the growing darkness. The cat stood, stretched, and then, surprising Cell, approached closer, eventually settling near his feet, just beyond touching distance. Not afraid, not trusting, simply present. Cell remained motionless, aware that any sudden movement might break this strange moment of companionship. The night air cooled around them, stars appearing one by one overhead, indifferent to the emptiness below. Is this what peace feels like? Cell asked the cat. This quiet acceptance? No answer came, of course, but in the silence, Cell felt something shift within him. Not a weakness or a flaw in his perfect design, but an opening, a space for questions that had no programmed answers. Could it be that true perfection includes room for growth, for change, for becoming something not planned or predicted? The thought was unsettling, contradicting everything he understood about his purpose. Yet it persisted, like the cat at his feet, neither demanding nor retreating, simply existing alongside him in the quiet night. Tomorrow, warriors would come to his arena. Tomorrow, his purpose would unfold as designed, but tonight belonged to shadows and silence, to unasked questions and unexpected companions. As midnight approached, Cell remained at the cafe table, the cat now sleeping peacefully nearby. Two beings, alone yet together, finding momentary harmony in an abandoned world. Sometimes, the most profound connections come without a single word. Rain fell softly on the arena, turning white tiles slick and reflective. Cell stood at its center, face upturned to the gentle shower, feeling each droplet trace paths down his perfect form. The tournament was 2 days away now. Soon, this place would echo with battle cries and energy blasts. But tonight, there was only the rhythm of rain, nature's quiet music. Have you ever closed your eyes in the rain and felt as though the world was washing away, leaving only the essential? Cell extended his hands, palms upward, collecting small pools that reflected the clouded sky. Water, so simple in its composition, yet powerful enough to shape continents over time, not through force, but through persistence, not through destruction, but through gentle erosion. What might I have become, he wondered, had I been shaped by something other than purpose? Within him, cellular memories stirred. Piccolo standing beneath a waterfall, letting its force pound against his body as he meditated. Goku, laughing as he splashed in a river with his son. Even Frieza, viewing a planet's oceans from space, calculating their value rather than their beauty. But none of these memories were truly his. They were echoes, impressions left in the cellular material he had absorbed. Cell's own memories began in darkness, in the laboratory tank where his first form developed. No rain there, no sky, no gentle touch. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the arena, followed seconds later by rolling thunder. The storm was intensifying, yet Cell remained motionless, absorbing this natural display of power, so different from the energy he commanded. I was created to be feared, Cell said to the rain, as lightning is feared, as thunder is feared. Yet who fears the gentle rain that nourishes all life? He closed his eyes, focusing on the sensation of water against his skin. Millions of individual droplets, each following gravity's pull, each catching light in unique ways before joining the greater whole, united in purpose, yet individual in journey. Could it be that true power lies not in standing apart, but in joining together? From within his perfect memory emerged an image, not absorbed from others but his own experience. The face of a young woman, the last he had absorbed before achieving his perfect form. Her eyes, wide with fear, yet defiant to the end. Android 18 created like him, yet so different in her choices. Did you find it? Cell asked the storming sky. The thing I'm seeking now? That sense of self beyond programming? Lightning flashed again, closer this time, momentarily bleaching the world of color. In that stark illumination, Cell saw his shadow cast multiple times around him, as if his single form contained many selves, many possibilities. Wasn't that true? Within him lived the potential of all those he had absorbed, their strengths, their knowledge, perhaps even fragments of their spirits. Not just the warriors whose cells Dr. Gero had specifically collected, but the countless ordinary people consumed during his evolution. The baker who rose before dawn each day to create small perfections of his own, the teacher who found purpose in sharing knowledge rather than hoarding power, the child whose laughter had stopped mid-breath when Cell appeared. All gone, yet somehow still present within his perfect form. Rain fell harder now, drumming against the arena tiles like countless tiny footsteps. Cell remained still, letting it flow over him, imagining for a moment that it might wash away his purpose, leave him clean and undefined, free to choose his own path. A futile thought, yet there was something powerful in even having such thoughts, evidence that he was more than the sum of his programming, more than a weapon pointed at a target. Is that not its own kind of perfection? He asked the storm, to question, to wonder, to seek. As rain continued through the night, Cell remained in the arena's center, neither fighting the elements nor controlling them, simply existing within their embrace, gathering questions like the tiles gathered water, questions that would remain long after the storm had passed. Tomorrow would bring more preparations. The day after, warriors would arrive to test themselves against his perfect form. The purpose for which he was created would unfold. But perhaps within that purpose, there was room for something more, something uniquely his own. As lightning traced silver paths across the dark sky, Cell watched with new eyes, seeing not just power, but beauty, not just destruction, but transformation. And somewhere within him, like a seed taking root, grew the possibility of becoming more than his creator had imagined. High above the world, Cell floated in the thin upper atmosphere, suspended between earth and space. Below him spread continents and oceans, clouds swirling in weather patterns, both chaotic and orderly. Above stretched the infinite cosmos, stars burning in countless configurations, galaxies spinning in slow celestial dance. Have you ever felt both insignificant and enormous in the same moment, as if you were both dust and universe simultaneously? Cell extended his arms, as if to embrace the vastness around him. Here, there was no audience, no opponents, no expectations, only the truth of existence, stripped to its essence. Breathing was optional at this altitude, but he maintained the rhythm anyway, finding comfort in its steady pattern. I was created to be the end, Cell said to the stars. But you have witnessed billions of endings, haven't you? And still, you shine. From Frieza's cellular memory came knowledge of countless worlds, civilizations risen and fallen, species evolved and extinct. From Piccolo's came the ancient wisdom of Namek, understanding that all things exist in cycles, death always followed by rebirth, destruction by creation. Is that my place in the pattern? Cell wondered. Not an end, but a turning point? The thought was strange, contradicting his programming, yet somehow feeling true. Dr. Jarrow had designed him as the ultimate weapon, the perfect warrior. But perhaps perfection meant something more complex than simple dominance. Cell focused on a particular star, one that Vegeta's memory identified as the former location of planet Vegeta, homeworld of the Saiyans, now dust floating through space, an entire civilization, an entire history, reduced to memory. Yet from that destruction had come Goku and Vegeta, whose strength now formed the foundation of Cell's own power. Destruction transformed into new creation, Cell murmured. Is that the true cycle? Far below, lights glimmered along coastlines and cities, evidence of human civilization, fragile yet persistent. These lights, these lives, were what Cell had been created to extinguish, yet floating here. Seeing them as part of a larger pattern, he felt something unexpected. Appreciation, not weakness, not hesitation, but a moment of seeing beyond purpose to possibility. Cell closed his eyes and accessed Goku's memories of Spirit Bomb technique, not to gather energy, but to feel the connection the Saiyan experienced when touching the life force of an entire world. The sensation was overwhelming. Billions of individual lights, each with its own story, its own purpose, all connected in ways both visible and invisible. Could it be that true perfection lies not in standing apart from this web, but in finding one's place within it? Cell opened his eyes, gazing once more at the cosmos above. Stars died and were born every moment, their life cycles measured in billions of years. Planets formed and crumbled, galaxies collided and merged, all following patterns too vast for any single being to fully comprehend. Yet here he was, witnessing it all, a being created in a laboratory on a small planet, now floating at the edge of space, asking questions his creator had never anticipated. Was that not its own kind of miracle? As the first light of dawn touched the curve of the earth below, Cell began his descent, moving through layers of atmosphere with perfect control. His tournament would begin tomorrow. Warriors would come, battles would be fought, and his purpose would unfold. But something had changed in these quiet hours between stars. Not a weakness in his design, not a flaw in his programming, but an expansion, a growing awareness that perfection might encompass more than power, more than victory, that perhaps in the space between stars, in the questions with no answer, in the wondering rather than the knowing, there existed a different kind of strength, one that even the perfect being was just beginning to understand. The last stars faded as dawn approached, the sky shifting from black to deepest blue above Cell's arena. One day remained before his tournament, one day of waiting, of silence, of final preparation. Cell sat cross-legged at the arena's center, hands resting lightly on his knees, neither generating energy nor planning strategy, simply breathing, in and out, present in the moment between night and day. Have you ever noticed how the world feels different in these threshold times, these spaces between defined states? Not quite night, not quite morning, a time that belongs only to itself. I've spent so much time becoming, Cell said softly. When do I simply get to be? Within him, the cellular memories of warriors stirred, Piccolo's countless hours of meditation, searching for center, Goku's innocent joy in simply existing, content in each moment regardless of what came before or after. Even Vegeta's driven nature had occasional pauses, rare moments when the prince stopped pushing forward and acknowledged the present. But these were their experiences, not his. Cell's existence had been a constant progression toward completion, toward the tournament that would prove his perfection. He had never simply been, until now. The first bird calls sounded from distant trees, tentative notes questioning the coming day. Cell listened, not analyzing or categorizing, just receiving the sounds as they came. One voice became many as other birds joined the chorus, each with its own pattern, its own message. Cell focused on his breath, feeling the air move through a body designed for far more destructive purposes, in and out. The simple rhythm shared by all living things, from the smallest insect to the mightiest warrior. Perhaps, he thought, this is what connects us all. Not power, not purpose, but the basic patterns of existence. A gentle breeze moved across the arena, carrying the scent of earth and growing things. Cell's perfect senses could identify each component: pollen from specific flowers, minerals from particular soil, moisture from the previous night's rain, a chemical analysis of life itself. Yet beyond the analysis lay something more profound, the simple recognition of morning, of renewal, of continuation, the world breathing out and in, just as he did. Could it be that true perfection lies not in standing above this pattern, but in recognizing oneself within it? Cell opened his eyes as sunlight touched the arena's edge, transforming white tiles to gold. From the cellular memories within him came fragmentary images. Goku watching sunrise from a mountaintop, Piccolo feeling the day's first warmth on his face, countless humans beginning countless days with hope or resignation or determination. All these memories, these borrowed experiences, had shaped him in ways Dr. Gero had never intended. The scientists had collected cellular material for strength, for fighting technique, for tactical advantage, never considering that he might also be collecting moments of quiet, of beauty, of connection. I contain multitudes, Cell realized. Not just power, but perspective. As full daylight spread across the arena, Cell remained seated at its center, feeling the warmth grow around him. Tomorrow, warriors would arrive. Tomorrow, his purpose would unfold as designed. The tournament, the challenges, the proof of his perfection, all would come in their time. But this moment, this breath between what was and what would be, belonged to him alone, not to his creator, not to his programming, not to the warriors whose cells he carried, just to Cell, the being who had walked through darkness and emerged into light, asking questions no one had thought to answer. Perhaps that's the final test, he said to the morning sky. Not who I can defeat, but who I choose to become. The sun rose fully above the horizon, casting Cell's shadow behind him, no longer stretched and monstrous, as in twilight, but compact and defined, present, but not overwhelming, part of him, but not his entirety. Cell stood slowly, feeling the perfect balance of his form, the quiet strength that had always been his. Tomorrow would come with its noise and fury, its purpose and meaning, but today, this one precious day between becoming and proving, was a gift he had never expected to receive, a day to simply be, and in that being perhaps lay a perfection beyond anything his creator had imagined, the perfection of presence, of awareness, of choice. As morning birds continued their song and sunlight warmed the waiting arena, Cell stood at its center, finally understanding what the old masters knew, that true power was never in the destruction. It was in the peace, in the breath, in the silent space between heartbeats, where all possibilities exist. And for the first time since his creation, Cell smiled, not in pride or anticipation of battle, but in simple appreciation of the moment, perfect, just as it was.